We're diving into one of the most powerful case studies on leadership you'll ever find, the story of King Solomon. It's a gripping tale about that razor-thin line between greatness and total ruin. And you know what? Its lessons on wisdom and temptation are just as real for us today as they were thousands of years ago.
So let's start with a question for you. If you could be granted one wish, literally anything at all, what would you ask for? Would it be money, power, a long, healthy life? Really think about it, because that choice says a whole lot about what you value most.
Now, I want you to imagine you're just 20 years old. You've got zero experience, and all of a sudden, you're the king of a nation. Well, for the young Solomon, this wasn't just some thought experiment. This was his new reality, and he was about to face that exact choice.
So where does this whole story really kick off? Well, it's not in some fancy throne room. It starts with a young king's prayer, an act of devotion that pretty much sets the stage for everything that's about to happen.
To show his commitment, Solomon heads to Gibeon, which was a major place of worship at the time. And he doesn't just do something small. Oh no, he makes a massive statement, 1,000 burnt offerings. I mean, that was just a staggering display of devotion. So it's right here, in a dream, that God asks him the ultimate question, what do you want? And Solomon's answer, this is what makes him so legendary. He doesn't ask for wealth or a long life or victory over his enemies. He asks for a discerning heart, basically a listening heart, so that he can rule his people with justice. And this right here, this is the crucial part of the story. God was incredibly pleased with that answer. You see, Solomon's humble request for a listening heart was worth so much more than those 1,000 grand sacrifices. It showed that his priorities were in exactly the right place. So, because Solomon asked for the right thing, he gets this incredible promise from God. But that promise, well, it was going to come with an immediate and very public test.
So here's the deal God lays out. First, he's going to get wisdom like no one has ever seen before. Second, God's going to throw in all the stuff he didn't ask for, riches, honor, the whole shebang. And third, he'll get a long life. But, and this is a huge but, it comes with one crucial condition. He has to stay faithful.
Okay, so being promised wisdom is one thing, but seeing it in action? That's something else entirely. And Solomon's new gift was about to be put on display in what would become the most famous story of his entire reign. Just picture this scene. It's an absolute courtroom nightmare. You've got two women, one baby, and both are claiming to be the mother. There are no witnesses, no DNA tests. It's an impossible situation. Solomon's response is just shocking. He says, "Bring me a sword. We'll cut the baby in two." The fake mother actually agrees, but the real mother, she screams in horror, begging Solomon to just give the child away to save its life. And right there, in that gut-wrenching moment, Solomon's wisdom slices right through all the lies and reveals the truth.
And there's something really deep going on here with the language. The original Hebrew word used to describe the mother's compassion is raham, which literally means womb. It points to this deep, primal, burning love that comes from the very core of her being. Solomon didn't just see a clever trick. He saw the raw, undeniable instinct of raham in action. The effect was instantaneous. News of this judgment just spread like wildfire. People didn't just see a clever ruler. They saw a king with wisdom that had to be from God, and they held him in absolute awe. This singular act cemented his entire reputation and legitimized his rule. So, with his wisdom now the stuff of legend, Solomon didn't just settle disputes. He started building a golden age of peace and prosperity for his nation. It's really interesting to compare his reign to his father, David. David was a warrior king, right? His entire administration was built for war. Solomon, on the other hand, built a kingdom that was all about diplomacy and civil administration. It was a massive shift from a warrior to a statesman. And you can see this shift in his government. Sure, he had the traditional roles like priests and army commanders, but Solomon added all these new layers of bureaucracy, things like regional governors and high-ranking palace officials. It just goes to show how much the kingdom was expanding and getting more sophisticated under his leadership. And the results? They were absolutely stunning. His kingdom's influence stretched all the way from the Euphrates River to Gaza, and unlike his father's constant battles, Solomon's era was marked by peace on all sides. This was truly the peak, the absolute zenith of Israel's power.
And Solomon's wisdom wasn't just for politics. His intellectual output was just mind-boggling. We're talking 3,000 proverbs, over 1,000 songs, and he even wrote extensively on botany and zoology. His court became this magnet for learning and culture, drawing in leaders and scholars from all over the known world. But this is where the story takes a tragic turn. Because for all his God-given wisdom, Solomon had a fatal flaw. A huge blind spot that would end up compromising everything he had worked so hard to build. The numbers are just staggering. 700 wives and 300 concubines. Now, look, a lot of these were political marriages, right? They were meant to forge alliances and keep the peace. But they came at a steep price. It's that timeless leadership trap, making a strategic compromise that slowly, quietly eats away at your very foundation. And here's the thing. He had been explicitly warned about this. The law for the kings of Israel was crystal clear. Do not acquire many wives, because they will turn your heart away. The wisest man in the world walked straight into a trap that he knew was there his entire life. And that is exactly what happened. His foreign wives brought their own gods and their own worship practices into the kingdom. And slowly but surely, Solomon's heart, that same listening heart he had prayed for, was led astray. This was the beginning of the end for his golden age. So this brings us to the central paradox of Solomon's entire life. How could the wisest man who ever lived make such a profoundly foolish choice? Well, the answer seems to lie in the nature of wisdom itself. You see, the divine wisdom God gave him was meant for the good of his people. It was selfless. But over time, Solomon started relying more on worldly wisdom, which is all about satisfying personal desires. It's self-serving. He had the greatest tool imaginable, but he started using it for all the wrong reasons. And that leaves us with this final, really important question. Solomon's story proves that just possessing wisdom isn't enough. The real challenge, the test that he ultimately failed, is actually applying that wisdom, especially when it goes against what we want. His life is both a profound inspiration and, at the same time, a very sobering warning.